Blessed be Jah. Haile Selassie the first, king over all the earth. Haile Selassie the first, king over all the earth. Haile Selassie the first, king over all the earth. Haile Selassie the first, king over all the earth. Turn to 1 Timothy chapter 3 verse 16 without controversy. Great is the mystery. God was manifest in the flesh with his word, sent his son unto us, the promised Messiah. Primus the same Jesus, the precious blood of Christ is of a lamb without blemish, without spot. Show that idol worship the first day of the week could never be the Sabbath of the Almighty. Haile Selassie the first, king over all the earth.
Greetings in the name of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. This is going to be the first episode of my new podcast, the podcast of Primus St. Croix. And in this episode, we're going to speak about the Israeli and Palestinian conflict. On October 7th of 2023, a new conflict has arisen, but it is actually an old conflict, an ongoing issue that hasn't been resolved. It is a conflict that has a lot of opinions about the origins of it, but no one seems to have an answer for it, a solution to this problem, and it is a very difficult problem, and it is something that needs to be addressed. Now, our position from the Order of Primus St. Croix is to look to His Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I, because Primus St. Croix is a preacher, a prophet, who has taught us to look to His Majesty and has taught us that His Majesty is the Almighty God. Now, His Majesty has issued a proclamation in regards to Israel on October 24th of 1973. His Majesty said, in accordance with its consistent position against the annexation of territories, Ethiopia did everything it could in order to bring about an Israeli withdrawal from the territories of Egypt, Jordan, and Syria that it conquered in 1967. Ethiopia's position has remained consistent. As long as Israel remains in these territories, there is no chance of peace in the Middle East. Since Israel has not withdrawn from the conquered territories, Ethiopia has decided to cut off diplomatic relations with it, and that is how it will be until Israel withdraws. The announcement was accompanied by a demand that all Israelis leave Ethiopia immediately. Within a week, all the Israelis had left with their families. So within that statement, His Majesty said that the idea of there being peace in the Middle East is not going to be possible as long as Israel remains in the territories that it annexed through war in during the 6-Day War, right? So there's a UN resolution in regards to this. It is resolution 242, and it was passed unanimously. And it says that the territories that Israel invaded and occupied, which is going to be the Syrian Golan Heights, the Egyptian Sinai Peninsula, and the Palestinian territories of the West Bank and Gaza Strip, that this resolution, this UN resolution, calls for Israel to withdraw from those territories. His Majesty said as long as Israel remains in those territories, there's no chance of peace in the Middle East. As of right now, in the year 2023, and again, this was from this resolution was passed in 1967. His Majesty issued his proclamation in 1973. It is now 2023. Israel has remained in those territories and has occupied more territories. Right? They have disputed this resolution, even though it was passed unanimously. So the entire world disagrees with Israel, but Israel has a religious belief that they are entitled to that land, and that means all of the land. They actually are under the belief through their religion that it all belongs to them. That is the promised land. It is the Jewish land, and that the Palestinians who are there, they have no rights. They have no rights to be there. And the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, he actually said this. He used the Bible, and he misquoted the Bible. He pieced together scriptures to prove a point, which a lot of religions do. So he actually said, you must remember that what Amalek has done to you, says our Holy Bible. Now go and attack the Amalekites and totally destroy all that belongs to them. Do not spare them. Put to death men and women, children and infants, cattle and sheep, camels and donkeys. So those are the words of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And he was quoting Deuteronomy 25, and he was quoting 1 Samuel 15. He was misquoting them to push an agenda that the Palestinians, again, do not deserve to live there, and it is the decree of God to remove them from that land. And he's saying that it is God's words and God's decrees to destroy them. Men, women, children, infants, cattle, sheep, camels, and donkeys. Everything must be destroyed according to his interpretation of the scriptures. And this is why it is so important that you have the correct interpretation of the scriptures. So when we say Primus St. Croix is the prophet, what we're saying is that the interpretation that he gives is the correct interpretation. So Christ is described as the way to God because his message is the truth. And no other person's message is correct other than his. And all you have to do is look and study and research all of these religions. And you have to understand what they are calling you to do. So they're calling for genocide. They're calling for murder. And these are not righteous acts. You have to understand this, and you have to understand the effect that these religions have. So if it has a negative effect, right? If it produces wickedness, then their interpretation cannot be correct. So this again is something that has been going on for a long time, and as long as the incorrect interpretation of religion is followed, because man is led forth by spiritual power, as long as they are being As long as they're following the wrong form of spirituality, then their actions are going to be incorrect. And it is a difficult thing to be righteous and to do the right thing. But if your ideas and if your beliefs and if what you believe in is false and evil and tells you that, and if you believe that it is okay to kill, and if you believe that it is okay to do evil, then your actions will never be righteous. So again, we have to look to His Majesty for the answers, and we must accept what His Majesty has said, because His Majesty is the one who has provided us with the truth, and it is only one God, and it is only one prophet. Blessed be Jah, Rastafari, and Haile Selassie I the First.